Let's talk about why Silent Hill F could be the most defining Silent Hill game yet. The Silent Hill franchise used to be one of the most genre-defining series of survival horror video games, which quickly earned its place next to existing legends like Resident Evil and Alone in the Dark as soon as the first game was released. The moment I played the series for the first time, I was blown away by the atmospheric game design. The fog-engulfed city, harboring horrific monsters, incredibly fleshed out storylines, and engaging gameplay that kept me at the edge of my seat at all times, especially at a younger age. Despite the incredible success and word of mouth that the franchise had, unfortunately a lot of the game in the franchise past first 3 had divisive reactions. And after the cancellation of the much promising PT by Hideo Kojima, the franchise laid dormant for 12 years until a certain wave of new games was announced. Among all of them, Silent Hill F stands out the most for many reasons. First of all, it's a mainline game that is not taking place in the Silent Hill town. While this isn't a first for the series, the fact that the team is taking such a bold risk for a revival that could make or break the franchise again is a big deal. The game takes place in rural Japan, with the year being in the 1960s, and the cultural and historical references in the game's design, especially visually, are very much visible from what little we've seen. So let me explain to you why Silent Hill F is so fascinating and how it might just be the game that brings the franchise back on the map. First question that comes to everyone's mind is, why Japan? Why aren't they going back to the franchise's roots and give us good old games set in the American town
Silent Hill?
The answer is actually pretty interesting. The developers do actually want to move back towards the franchise roots again. They just felt that the series became too westernized over the years, which makes sense because while the first couple of games took place in the US of A, they still had a Japanese survival horror touch to them with their themes and overall design. But when you look at something like Silent Hill Homecoming or Downpour, for example, Japan would be the last thing that comes to your mind. Setting the game in Japan just for the sake of it being Japan is not the only reason the developers are going towards this change. The second, and perhaps the primary reason, is that the developers want to heavily feature Japanese folklore and horror. One of the key aspects in the proposed design is finding beauty in terror, which you can already see in how the game uses beautiful flora and deceptively harmless characters who are then transformed into corruption. Body horror and beauty in nature are two things that are being used here to make a player uncomfortable. And while we don't know to what extent Japanese folklore horror will be incorporated in the game's story, it seems to play a massive part behind how these things will be explained, especially when it comes to the fog taking over the protagonist's town. Steering away from that aspect a little though, the game appears to be just as messed up as you'd expect Silent Hill to generally be, because Konami has mentioned it contains depictions of gender discrimination, child abuse, bullying, drug-induced hallucinations, torture, and violence. On top of that, we also have details of things like face slicing, amputation, nudity being involved in the mix too. This game is going to be messed up, and the fans wouldn't have it any other way. One of the reasons behind the extremely high anticipation of this game is the involvement of Ryukishio 7. It is easily one of the biggest factors. Ryukishio 7 is one of the most respected names in Japanese video game industry, and I have enjoyed his When They Cry series over the years, especially Higurashi and Umineko, which are undoubtedly two of his best written projects. His contributions to Rewrite elevated it as well because he's just very good at the themes that he mainly focuses on, such as cyclical trauma, tragedy, paranoia, and mystery. And with what I talked about a minute ago, we can say that all of that has already crept its way into Silent Hill F2. And since this is in the hands of an author who has proven himself before, we can higher our expectations safely. Sure, this game could still turn out to be disappointing in other aspects, but the story won't be at fault from the looks of it. Silent Hill's reinvention for a new generation, Konami, previously taking a huge sabbatical from video games, led everyone to feeling they will just sell their IPs, especially since they didn't really do anything with them besides pachinko machines, looking at you, Metal Gear Solid 3, for over a decade. But it seems like they have finally decided to return, and given that they took such a long break, they are returning to a new generation that haven't all grown up with their games, starting from the PS1 and PS2. So that poses a new challenge in itself in an ever-competitive market. However, with the release of Silent Hill 2, the confidence that fans have in the possibility of Konami redeeming themselves after years of radio silence and cancellation of PT, that's gone up. While we shouldn't be too excited for something that hasn't been released yet, it does seem like Konami is genuinely trying with Silent Hill F. The developers of Silent Hill F appears to have a substantial budget, allowing for high production values and strong creative direction. The team seems to have been given a significant amount of creative freedom, which could lead to a fresh and unique take on Silent Hill series. Additionally, the game benefits from the involvement of Ryukishi 07, whom I've mentioned before, ensuring a fantastic story. A particularly exciting aspect is the return of Akira Yamaoka, a longtime Silent Hill veteran who's known for composing some of the most iconic and hauntingly beautiful pieces in the series' history. However, despite these promising elements, one notable absence from the project is Masahiro Ito, the renowned art director who played a crucial role in defining the visual identity of the franchise. His absence means that Silent Hill F will be taking a different artistic direction, which could be a point of curiosity or concern for longtime fans of the series. I've got a question for you guys. Do you think Silent Hill F can capture the same eerie atmosphere without Ito's iconic artistic touch? Alright, let's address the elephant in the room. While most things seem to be on the right track for Silent Hill F, there is one elephant that we haven't addressed, and that is that the game's core developer, NeoBards Entertainment, haven't really created any major single-player video games, and they mostly have credits as support studios for games like Devil May Cry and Resident Evil HD remasters, multiplayer games like Resident Evil Resistance and Reverse, and the infamous Marvel's Avengers. They also most recently have taken credit for working on the Dead Rising Deluxe remastered version of the game. Now, if you notice a pattern here, almost all of these games were panned by critics and fans alike. The remasters, besides the Resident Evil one, have tons of inconsistencies, and players weren't a fan of them. And the individual projects, Marvel's Avengers, are universally hated and considered mediocre. Therefore, it's hard to get excited for anything they're working on, given their poor track record thus far. That being said, let's play the devil's advocate for a moment and take a look at what happened with Bloober Team. While yes, Layers of Fear and The Medium aren't exactly bad games, them not developing any 8 or 9 out of 10 games did worry people as to what quality of Silent Hill 2 remake would turn out to be. On top of that, there was the whole controversy with Konami releasing super action-oriented trailers for the game that raised concerns in fans, which even Bloober Team disowned immediately, as they accused Konami of poor marketing very publicly. Typical Konami. Yet despite all of this, the game turned out to be phenomenal and contributed greatly to the revitalization of the franchise, a mission that hopefully Silent Hill F will complete. So let's give NeoBards a chance. So what does all of this mean for Silent Hill's future if Silent Hill F is not successful? It might lead to the franchise taking vacations for the next few decades again. But if the game turns out to be as great as it looks, then this means Silent Hill might end up becoming a franchise that could serve as a rival to Resident Evil in present day, just like how it used to in the past. Konami versus Capcom. Konami's recent strategy for the franchise seems to be a little something for everyone. Since we had the experimental but terrible Silent Hill Ascension, which had tons of social aspects, then we had Silent Hill, The Short Message, which is more of the Americanized side, with its atmosphere and story, but floral monsters in it seems like a teaser for what's to come in Silent Hill F. Furthermore, a spin-off called Townfall was announced too, which will serve as an anthology-based series. Not a lot is known about it yet, but French conceptual artist Frank Bassancar serves as one of its creature designers. And if you've ever played one of these games, you know that the creatures are just as important as the story or gameplay itself for Silent Hill. In any case, even if the spin-off projects fail, games like Silent Hill 2 Remake, Silent Hill F, and the potential Silent Hill 1 and 3 Remake will undoubtedly be greenlit soon, are going to take the franchise to its rightful place among the top survival horror IPs of today. Konami might end up fumbling the bag, or they might be becoming a great publisher, just like in the past, especially since they are releasing Metal Gear Solid 3, the remake, Metal Gear Solid Delta, very soon. I'm excited for the future of the franchise, and Silent Hill F might be the most defining non-remake mainline game in the franchise after a long time. So let's hope for the best and see how things turn out. If you're still here at the end of the video, do consider subscribing for similar content. See you in the next one.